Hello, my name is Andrei Kudryavtsev, and welcome to my studio. Today I'll be speaking about Fairlight. It's a Series 3 machine, and some of you familiar with my previous restoration work for these systems. This system is a bit special to me. Well, first of all, that system I got from Stuart Copeland. It's one of the wonderful special machines that he had for touring, and the main difference of that system that, well, you don't see a mainframe here. Well, actually it's a rackable system design, and it previously was in some really ugly rack case similar to my Sinclair case. Now it's integrated into pretty nice into the overall environment. It looks great. It's a special design. It's completely reworked, and I did a number of upgrades to that system overall that I'll be probably speaking over other videos and sharing with you what exactly done to that system. Today I'll just do a brief interview what has been done and how I integrated that into my current environment, and how I'm using Fairlight together with my main DAW. So let's get started at least with something. You see the keyboard here, you see Fairlight MFS on alphanumeric keyboard. Obviously you see something special here, which is first of all this special box. It's a USB keyboard emulator, so it allows to connect USB keyboard and mouse to the Fairlight and use it instead of this keyboard, or use it instead of older generation Prac keyboard. And well, that's something done to help this system be alive, and in case you don't have this keyboard, you can always use this box. It's open source design, and you can do it on yourself, or you can buy boards for this. So, but you don't see USB keyboard here, and there's a reason for that, actually. I'll share that later a bit. Now to the main rack. Main rack is pretty much small, so it has basically the computer board facing to the front side, the analog output board facing the back side. It's all connected to my main desk here, and what you see inside the computer bin, first of all, you see there are many spare places inside it. So there are a few reasons to that. First of all, usually, I'm not sure if you see that, usually in this area there are memory boards located, and this system doesn't have. Instead of many memory boards, it has a single board that replaces 32 megabyte of the maximum memory capacity for the Fairlight. It's been designed by Peter Wilk in Australia. You can buy it from him, and that is must-have update to the system. So if you're currently running system based on the older generation of 2 megabyte boards, 4 megabyte boards, 8 megabyte boards, you know how, well, warm they are. Well, they are actually really hot, and you know how unreliable they are. So this system has only one memory component there that is basically a single module of 32 megabyte. If something goes wrong, you just replace it, but nothing goes wrong. It's just a modern design. But what's important today that I'm going to discuss is the storage subsystem of that machine that I have. Originally, it's been designed to use as SCSI hard drives, as many other systems here, but I upgraded that and replaced with a SCSI emulator, SCSI 2SD. Similar I did for my Sinclair system, for my other systems here. The difference here that I'm using SCSI 2SD version 6, and the main difference between version 5 and version 6, there are some performance changes. Fairlight actually doesn't need it. If you don't use MFX functionality, you will not benefit of version 6 because it's faster. But the advantage that I'm using here, version 6 allows you to get access to your data over USB. So it's access to the device, and you can connect that USB port to your main computer, that can be PC or Mac. And now you have to use special software to translate data in and out from this partition on the USB. But the good thing is you don't need to reconnect. If you have data here sitting on the SCSI 2SD, you can access it from the SCSI, from machine here, and at the same time you can access it from the USB. So you have to be really careful when you modify the data. We'll discuss that a little bit later. But overall, it's just the greatest advantage. You don't need to do reconnection of the system, reconfiguration. It just sits all together. So now I'm going to talk to you about how I'm moving that system and how I'm accessing the data on this system from my main computer. It's pretty long distance between them actually, the USB port connected with basically USB extender over Ethernet cable, Cat5 cable goes here in the studio, and so I can get a reliable access to the USB port here. And at the same time, you will see how I'm accessing the screen here. Of course, it's a pleasure working in this corner. In some certain cases, when you sit with the main DAW, you just need to modify something a little bit, and well, you don't want to go here just to do something. And I'm doing that remotely. So that's the only system currently I'm aware of that has a remote access to the platform, and I'll probably create another video how I did it actually. So now let's go to my main DAW. With that, we are moving from this corner to my main DAW, and now we will be looking onto wonderful application here. So as I said, I have Fairlight connected with the USB, so the application that I'm talking about is Chicken Sys Translator, and that is the first ever announcement that I'm going to do today, and first ever recording how that works together with Fairlight. So let's get onto my screen. Okay, now you see my desktop screen. First, let's open the Cubase project, which I'll be using just for demonstration purpose. I need only 2 tracks from this project to get control to the Fairlight. That's just a MIDI track, and it's connected over the MIDI currently to my system. And obviously there is an audio path goes back to my system. Another track is a contact track. And as you may see here, I'm using contact 5 for a reason. And the primary reason for that is Native Instruments stopped providing access to the data format of a contact 6 NKI files, and it's with a translator, Chicken Systems Translator, only possible to get access to the contact 5 or earlier. So I'm using contact 5 here, which is actually doesn't really matter for that specific example. Is it 5 or 4 or something else? The library that I have here is a library I converted a long time ago from one of Akai discs I have here, and I'm going to pick just a sound here, okay, such as this sound, and okay, it's a pad sound, and that's what we are going to move to Fairlight. Before doing that, first we will take a look at that and do some changes to that sound. First, you need to understand that there are some specific functions that do exist in Contact and other samplers and do not exist at all in the Fairlight. As such as all the functions for controlling some envelopes realize totally different in the Contact. There is some, there is modulation, which doesn't exist in the Fairlight. Actually, in the Fairlight, instead of modulation, there are some functions, which kind of a modulation, but there is no currently direct way to translate modulation to the functions. So what we will be dealing with currently just with the basic translation, and for that reason, I'm going to remove all the modulations here, which exist in original sample. Did I do that? Okay, and also I'm going to remove some effects. Well, the way you see that in the Contact, that's a low pass filter, I will take that out, and I will later it's just easier to edit in Contact instead of just trying to do the translation of that. Yeah, it sounds in the full spectrum right now. So that is our sound. I'm going to save it first, so let's save it, and I will save it to my desktop and to Fairlight. Just a test folder, so let's say that would be just a pad, and save it all together with sample sounds in that directory. Now I'm starting Translator. In order to get started, it takes a few minutes because currently Translator scans all the special attached devices, and finally it gets you to the window where you can see all the devices attached. including obviously my USB Fairlight connected devices. Because I'm using SCSI to SD version 6, and I mentioned all the data available over USB, but not just over the single USB, because currently it's emulating number of drives. I'm emulating 5 drives at the same time, so it's a 5 4GB drives that SCSI to SD emulates. And within every of these drive, I have it basically dedicated back to my dock connected with SCSI to SD v6, and that's what you see here. Fairlight disk, that's the name that Translator does it, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's all my drives. Within every drive, I have up to 8 data partitions, so C partitions, and the reason I did that because drives are pretty big, so it's a 4GB drives, and if you have lots of files, it makes perfect sense to make small partitions and like split the files, all the libraries onto the smaller partitions. It helps performance a lot. Otherwise, Fairlight will be really slow on getting initial access and caching all the files into the memory. It just takes an enormous amount of time. So I'm going to move it to one of my drives. It's a drive number 6, and I have a test folder here. So what I want to do now, I go to the sound that I exported from a contact, and so I click translate on it. And there are multiple ways actually in Translator to do the same thing. So there are ways where you can just translate it to the file and leave it on your computer, and that's actually what I'm doing now. Or I can drag that file and put it to my test folder. So just in the interest, because I want to have a copy of that for my later use, just for archiving, I'll do it in that way. So I'll translate it to the desktop. It takes a few seconds to do translation. This sound is simple, but it has zones. And okay, done. It's translated. It's on my desktop. So now I click desktop, and here's my file, voice file. And I just drag this file over test. It's writing data. And it's almost done. Okay, good. Now I click my test folder. So this is my file. I mentioned that the beauty of a translator, that it can, first of all, it can recognize tons of different formats. Pretty much every format that exists on the planet for different samplers, Translator can handle. The reason I'm using contact, because it's simpler for me. You may just do translation from one sampler to another sampler from Akai directly inside Translator and use these features. But just in the interest of doing that with like common things with it, contact, I decided to do that. What I didn't say that this file, that for the pad file, it's pretty much a complicated file. Even I disabled modulations. Look at that. It has a key maps, it has different samples, it has some offsets inside here. So let's see how that's got translated. So go back to my translator. So it finished. Basically, at this point, I can close it. I don't need it. But because I'm not writing currently from a translator, it doesn't hurt to keep it open. So it's up to you. Now I'm going to the application that I'm using to get access to my Fairlight remotely. And this is something that worth having a separate video on that, how I do that. But basically, that's a screen of my Fairlight, which sits other side of the studio, and I'm going to switch to the drive that has this library, and now I'm opening this folder, and this is my file. In certain cases, and that's one of the hints to you, because we are doing the tricks to Fairlight. Fairlight is not aware that we modified the data. It thinks that because it doesn't expect that somebody else gets the access to the same data at the same time, and obviously it's kind of, well, it's not a hack, but it's a backdoor to put the data while keep the system running. So if you put the data, and at the time when Fairlight was open on the same drive, so like on C005, you will not see right away. You have two options. You either need to switch to different disk and go back to your disk where you put the data, or you have to unload CMI by saying quit, and then start it again by saying CMI. Anyway, this is my file. Press F5, load. It's loading. And here, let's go to the interface, see how it's loaded, what's the size of the file. Alright, so it's about 900 kilobytes, and I want, for instance, 10 voices of polyphony for this file. Great. Now I want to show you how it looks here. And this is my layout. So you see that I have different key maps, and it's all translated to the format. So let me try to play it. So no, I don't see any release because it was programmed with the modulators, which is not here. So I'm just going to put a global release, let's say in the increment of 100, maybe 600, 700. Nice, now it sounds, and let's check how split point's working. Well, it's working ideal to me. And if we go to the sub voice parameters, of course, as Translator manages all the tunings for you, and tuning is actually a total challenge to get managed within the Fairlight, the way how it works on a constant sample rate and doing the resampling in real time. So you have to do the tuning in a special way for every sub voice, and it does it for you automatically. It also sets some default parameters such as filter position and some decay. Other than that, as you remember, the contact file is pretty easy, so there is nothing that's really complicated inside it, well, except key maps. So I think that's it, what I wanted to talk to you today about, and I'm really excited that this happened. I will certainly do more advanced versions of Translator capabilities, because Translator is not only the tool for translation, it's also the tool for editing the data, and you can directly edit parameters of the file. So there is a built-in editor inside Translator where you can adjust voice parameters here on the PC before even moving it, and it gives you some basically options to do some basic changes. Plus, that's very important, it allows you to, for instance, to export dedicated sounds. So go send it to the external editor, do some changes, and put it back to a voice file, and so on. And you may expect that it will keep growing with the functionality. Currently, it's able to edit all the parameters of the sub voice that you see here. It will be much more coming, of course, including what's possible to do for the functions. Currently, there are no functions here assigned to the instrument. So there are some things to be improved, but the fact that it's possible today is just unbelievable. That wasn't possible for translating complex instruments before, for getting the a GUI access to the file system and being able to manage the data between Fairlight and between PC is just unbelievable. So, okay, that's it for the intro. Thanks a lot, and keep watching, and I will do some more extended videos to get into more details of that. Thanks.